Assalamualaikum and a very good day to everyone. Today, I, Hannani V10 will do my presentation for task 2 and give you two examples of activities that utilizes language arts during the lesson. So, as we all know, language arts is one of the skills that pupils will learn in school, and it comprises of many types of literature such as short stories, dramas, plays, poems, and jazz chants. And based on these activities, there are a lot of benefits that the pupils can gain through learning these language arts. For example, they can create new things, they can have another way to express themselves, as well as learn how to communicate with others. Plus, language arts is also useful in gaining creativity among the pupils. So let's move on to the first activity, which is what I would call, oh, sorry. So the first activity that I would like to suggest is by utilizing the short story that pupils may or may not know, which is named Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So the synopsis of this story is basically a little girl who went into the forest and found a small wooden house. She went into the house and found many types of objects she tried. For example, when she went to the living room, she found multiple chairs. She decides to sit on one of the chairs. The first chair was too hard, the second chair was too soft, while the third chair was just right for her. When she went into the kitchen, however, she notices there are three different bowls of porridge. So she decided to taste one of them. The first bowl of porridge was too hot, the second bowl was too cold, and the third porridge was just right. And after eating, she felt tired and decided to go to the bedroom. The first bed that she found was too hard for her, while the second bed was too soft for her, and finally she found the third bed, which was just right. And after she slept, the actual people of the house went in. And they're not actually people, they're actually three bears. The first bear was the father, the second bear was the mother, and the third bear was the child. They went into the house and find that all of their belongings have been used, and she and the family of bears found Goldilocks in the bedroom. By the end of the story, Goldilocks ran away from the house because she was afraid of the bears. So, based on this short story, I decided that there is one type of activity which is suitable to teach towards young learners, especially those who are in year 1, year 2, and year 3, which is called sequencing. So, in this activity, the materials that the teachers need to provide for the pupils are firstly some sequencing worksheets. The second is different cutouts of different objects, such as small paper cutouts of beds representing the story, and the porridges, as well as the chairs. And last but not least is always to explain the story to the pupils by giving them a small book or utilizing technology such as using audiobooks to teach the pupils about the story itself. So it depends on the teacher as well as the technology that's already provided in the school. If the school does not have any sort of projector or computers provided, the teacher can resort to using a big book and present it to the whole classroom, or even just printing out uh, a copy of the book one by one so the pupils can read on their own. So now I will explain how this activity works. So these are the instructions on how to delegate this activity. So first and foremost, the teacher plays the audiobook of the story. The teacher basically needs to explain to the pupils what the story is about, because not all pupils are familiar with the story, especially to those who live in rural areas. So if you want to teach them, of course the teacher have to expose them first what the story is about, so that they won't get confused on what they have to do, or feel like this activity was done very suddenly. Now, moving on to the second step, which is to ask the pupils whether or not they understood the story. So, this is basically like a generalization of trying to find out whether or not the pupils have um, high or low proficiency skills in English. So if they are able to understand the story, that means that their English proficiency is average or high, and they have the capacity to understand what the story is about. But if the pupils are unable to understand what the story is about, the teacher can give a better explanation by giving pictures, or try to give a brief translation of what the story is about. Or even if they do not know what certain words mean, the teacher can resort to adjusting the story so that it fits with what objects that the pupils may be familiar. So, for example, if the pupils don't understand the word porridge, the teacher can change the word into something, or into another type of food that most people are familiar with in our country, such as rice, nasi lemak, fried noodles, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of adjustments that can be done in order to make the story more understandable and relatable for the pupils. Okay, continuing on, is the third step, which is to instruct the pupils to cut out the pictures of the beds, the porridges, and the chairs. So, after asking the pupils whether or not they understand the story, the teacher gives out the cutouts of the various pictures and asks them to cut them carefully. So, if the pupils are too young to cut the papers, the teacher can try to adjust the papers, so make it more easily tearable instead of using sharp objects, or even provide the pupils child-friendly scissors so that they won't hurt themselves during cutting the pictures. And continuing on with the fourth step, the teacher will give the pupils the sequencing worksheets and begin the activity. So, after the pupils receive the worksheets, they will have to read the instructions and try to understand what the activity is all about. And after that, they will have to complete the worksheet by um, putting the pictures that they have already cut and pasting it into the correct category. So these are some examples of sequencing worksheets that I have found online. So this sequencing worksheet is mostly about the plot of the story. So the pupils cut out the four pictures below, and then they will have to paste it into a into the correct order based on the plot of the story that they have just heard. So as we can see, the first picture is about Goldilocks finding the porridge. The second picture is when the three bears found Goldilocks sleeping in the bedroom. The third picture is when Goldilocks sat on the chairs and broke the chairs. And lastly is Goldilocks finding the house itself in the forest. So it is clear that this is basically for teaching the pupils either reading skills or listening skills. So if the pupils read the story, they would have to carefully rearrange the pictures into what they have read, or if the pupils listen to the story instead, they would have to do the same thing. So it is a great assessment to see whether or not the pupils are able to read or listen to the story carefully. And this is another type of sequencing worksheet that pupils can do as well. And this is more suitable for younger pupils, such as year one and year two. So basically, in this worksheet, it is the same thing where the pupils have to cut out the pictures of the various objects based on the story, and they would have to put it into the correct category, the correct bear. So, for example, in the first category, we can see the father bear has the big bowl of porridge and the big bed. The second is the mama bear, where she has the soft chair and a cold porridge. While in the third column, we can see is the baby bear, which doesn't have the any pictures, but it's best that is the pupils can guess which of the objects is the correct one based on the story and the size of the pictures. So the bowl of porridge is supposed to be for the baby bear, and the medium-sized chairs and beds are for the mama bear, for example. So this is a great way to teach the pupils their like visual capacity of the pictures, as well as, of course, understanding what the story is about. So, if we want to make the activity more enjoyable and more interactive and not resorting to worksheets, the teacher can also provide real life objects such as three different size bowls, which represents the porridge, three different size dolls or three different size of teddy bears, which represents the three bears, as we can see, and having the pupils categorize the real objects to the correct character. So if the papa bear, we give the papa bear the big bowl, which represents the big porridge that he receives, while the baby bear, we ask the pupils to put the smallest bowl, which represents the porridge just for the baby bear. So that is another way to make the activity more fun for the pupils and not just having basic worksheets to do. Now, moving on is the second activity that I would like to present, which is by utilizing. Oh, before that, here are some benefits of why we should use stories in our lesson. Firstly, is to learn important moral values. So, based on the story, we can see that the moral value is that we shouldn't just use other people's things without their permission. Just like how Goldilocks kept using all of the three bears objects, such as the chair, the porridge, and the bedroom. And it gives the pupils like, oh, this is what not they should do, especially when they are very young and they are very impressionable. It's best that we teach the young learners good moral values so that they will be able to practice it in real life. The second benefit is that it enhances the language development because there may be a lot of new vocabulary that the pupils might not be familiar with, such as the word chair, the word porridge, the word bed. Like young learners, especially those who are year one, year two, or those who are from a rural area where English is not what they are used to, it is a great way to expose to them new vocabulary so that they will be able to learn and use it in their own communication skills, in English communication skills. And last but not least, it promotes creative thinking. So in the stories, there are a lot of fun, interesting plot ideas that not all people would be able to think about, because who makes a story about a young girl and meeting with three bears? Not a lot of fictional children's stories do that. And those who are not familiar with these types of stories, they will learn that, oh, there are also stories that are made about like this plot, or the ideas behind it, that it teaches important life lessons through a fictional children's story, just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So it gives the pupils another creative way to express their stories and the ideas that they can do in creating. Maybe they want to create a story similar to this, and it just gives them a boost of ideas so that, oh, they are able to do a story just like this. So next is the second activity, which is jazz chants. So in this second activity, sorry. Okay, in the second activity is using jazz chants, which is one of another form of language art, to teach the pupils about daily routines. So let me explain first what the definition of jazz chants are, because some may or may not know what it means. So, jazz chants is basically a teaching technique used in English language learning that combines the natural language patterns using rhythmic and musical elements. And it helps the learners to improve not only their pronunciation, but also their fluency and understanding of English through repetition and having a lot of chant like phrases. So, for example, this is a jazz chant. Oh, before that, here are the materials that the teacher needs to create this activity. So, firstly, they would have to provide a jazz chant example, either by presenting it through a projector or giving the pupils a physical copy of the jazz chant. The second is a few colored papers, um, and then is a marker with various colors so that the pupils feel like, oh, they have a lot of choices of colors. And last but not least is a small box. So in this activity, here are the instructions on how to use this activity. So firstly, the teachers will have to give the pupils the color papers and the markers. After that, the pupils have to write their jazz chants by filling in the missing information. Number three is to put all the jazz chants that the pupils have created into the small box, and the teacher chooses one pupil or ask for any volunteers if whether or not they want to pick one of the jazz chants from the box and read the jazz chant aloud. And then this is the fun part, is where the pupils have to guess whose jazz chant it is based on the daily routine that is put into the jazz chant. So this is an example of the jazz chant that I would like to give to the pupils. I wake up in the morning. I wake up in the morning. I wash my face and brush my teeth. I wash my face and brush my teeth. I eat my breakfast. I eat my breakfast. Finally, it's time for school. Finally, it's time for school. So this is an example of a jazz chant where it has a lot of repetition and a lot of words that fully describes a daily routine, which is wake up in the morning, washing your face, brushing your teeth, eating your breakfast, and finally going to school. So this is the jazz chant that would be given to the pupil so that they have to fill in the missing blanks. So they can put the time in the jazz chant. So I wake up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., or maybe 6:30 a.m. And then the pupils just insert the time that they themselves have done in their daily routine. And then in the second phrase, if the pupils are highly skilled, I would suggest that the activity face wash my face and brush my teeth be removed so that the pupils can insert their own type of daily routine that they can put. For example, maybe the pupils can put I take a bath. I take a bath. So that's another daily routine that they can put. Or maybe they can put I listen to music. I listen to music. They can put a daily routine of that. So it is based on their own creativity and also, of course, their level of English proficiency. So if their English proficiency is high, I would put these two activities as blank so that they have their own creativity to put their own words inside. But if not, I would suggest to just um, empty the space and have the pupils just put the routine that is already provided in the jazz chant. So the third part of the jazz chant is I eat my breakfast, I eat my breakfast, and then the pupils can put the name of the food that they ate. So they can put I eat my breakfast, I eat my breakfast, nasi lemak, nasi lemak. So they put the name of the food twice, so it follows the jazz chant rhythm. So it has to be written two times. Or I eat my breakfast cereal, cereal, huh? So that is based on their own creativity. So if the pupils have low proficiency, of course the teacher have to provide suitable guidance. So if they ask, teacher, um s- what is bijirin in English? So the teacher of course have to help them and give the answer to them. And finally, it's time for school, it's time for school. So these are the benefits of having the pupils learn jazz chants in the classroom. So first and foremost is that it can teach the pupils pronunciation. This is because when we do the jazz chants, there is a lot of repetition going on, and when they repeat the words over and over again, they will practice their mouth movements, their tongue, their how they want to say the words. They will have to practice it a bunch of times so that they will able to pronounce the words correctly. But if they didn't do the jazz chants enough, they won't have the enough practice to enhance their pronunciation skills. And the second benefit is that it is good for memory enhancement, because a lot of research shows that when we repeat words, or even just repeat any like routine or do any type of job and repetition, it gives the pupils like muscle memory to remember, oh, I already done this a million times. We have to say the word like this, or we have to this is the order of the jazz chant. So this is how you say this word, for example. So last but not least, it is that it can give a creativity and also a tool for the pupils to express themselves. So it creates creativity because the pupils use their own creativity to add into the jazz chant and use words that they are familiar with, or use any type of words that they want to use based on their own experience. And it's also a great way to express themselves because they, for example, the activity just now, they express how they use their own daily routine instead of just talking to people. Oh, every day I eat breakfast, I eat cereal every day. You can have a fun way to express by using just chants. Oh, I eat cereal every morning. So that is the end of the presentation. In conclusion, there are a lot of benefits of utilizing the language arts in the lesson, and it not only gives the pupils cognitive skills, but also it gives the pupils more fun and enjoyment in the classroom. And that is all from my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.